Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi ala ni'matul islami wa kafa biha ni'ma. All praise and gratitude be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on His blessing of Islam, which suffices as a blessing. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I'd like to welcome you all on the 12th talk of this series, and we are looking at para 6, which inshallah we will do. This is Surah Al-Ma'idah, and inshallah we will be going through from ayat 27 to 82. Now, when we look at these ayahs, which are for this evening, we will be looking at the first ayah, which is going to talk about the devastating consequence of jealousy, as stated in the story of Cain and Abel, which is Habil and Qabil. We'll also be looking at the severe punishment for stealing, which is specified in later ayahs, and the law of just retribution. We'll also learn about the consequences of Muslims having deep friendship with Jews and Christians, and that's a topic that we would be exploring in some of these ayahs. So let's just begin with the first ayah, which is ayat number 27. وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ ابْنَيْ آدَمَ بِالْحَقِّ إِذْ قَرَّبَا قُرْبَانًا فَتُقَبِّلَ من أحدهما ولم يتقبل من الآخر قال لأقتلنك قال إنما يتقبل الله من المتقين. And recite to them the story of Adam's two sons in truth, when they both offered a sacrifice to Allah, and it was accepted from one of them but was not accepted from the other, and he said, I will surely kill you. Said the former, indeed Allah only accepts from the righteous. So the story of Cain and Abel, Habil and Qabil, as mentioned in the book of Genesis also, in much more detail. This is the first murder. This is the first murder that took place on this earth, and the simple reason of this was jealousy. And the jealousy was that one of the brothers felt that why my offering was not accepted and his offering was accepted. So jealousy is a very powerful emotion. It led to a murder, the first murder that took place. So it's clearly danger. We need to recognize these dangers, because in the world, we will always see people who are better than us. We will see people who are smarter, people who are richer, people who are better looking, people who are more pious than we are. And if we have jealousy, it's going to consume us. It's going to consume us from inside. Even if we do not act, it will consume us from inside. So here Abel was able to, he offered the best of his sheep as offering to Allah, and that's the story. And while Cain, which is Qabil, he offered the worst of his produce from the land as an offering to Allah. Now, clearly the purpose of any offering is to seek nearness to Allah. Allah doesn't need these, but it is just to show our attitude towards Allah. Now, Qabil, which is Cain, he became jealous. He blamed Habil for the non-acceptance of his offering. And one of the problems in jealousy that we note straight away is that it prevents people from seeing their own weakness. In which case, in this case, was a lack of sincerity, because of which his offering was not accepted. But he actually blamed, instead of thinking internalizing the problem, he actually blamed it on his brother. In fact, there's a hadith in which our Prophet ﷺ said, with taqwa, no righteous deed is small. How can a deed be insignificant if Allah accepts it? So it's all about righteousness. It's all about sincerity that Allah is looking. He's not looking at what we are offering, but He's looking at our sincerity. If you raise your hand against me to kill me, I shall not raise my hand against you to kill you. Indeed, I fear Allah, the Lord of the worlds. So in the story of Qabil and Habil, the end result of jealousy was that it led to one of the brothers killing the other brother. I shall not raise my hand against you to kill you. I must point out over here, I think, so that we can really understand this ayat, it's not a virtue to offer oneself for murder, nor is it a virtue to refrain from resisting any aggressive attack against us. We must defend. We must fight back. But here, in case of Habil, it was the fear of punishment of Allah that he said that I will not raise my hand against you. So also keep in mind that in case of unprovoked murder, the murderer, in addition to his own sin, he is also burdened with the sin of the innocent victim. In a hadith, our Prophet ﷺ said, if a person dies of a violent death, not caused directly or indirectly by his own sinful actions, his previous sins will be forgiven, and that's the case that we see over here. Indeed, I would rather that you bear my sins and your own sins, so that you be among the companions of fire, and that is the recompense or the reward of the wrongdoers. And his, which means Qabil's soul, imposed upon the murder of his brother, so he killed him and he became among the losers. Then Allah sent a raven scratching upon the earth to show him how to hide the dead body of his brother. He said, "Woe to me! Have I failed to be even like this raven to hide the body of my brother?" And he became full of regret. Now you can see that the regret of Qabil is not that, the reason why he's really regretting is that he's not even as clever as a raven. Repentance is missing. He's not saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I did such an awful thing, I killed my brother." No, the regret of Cain or Qabil was that he had committed the murder of his brother, and now he was not even as clever as a crow to be able to hide his crime. So you see, another jealousy was there. Now this jealousy is directed towards the crow. The crow even is cleverer than me, and he feels, that's the regret that he's now having over here. This crow is even smarter than me. This is what is called criminal mentality. This is what is called criminal mentality, particularly out of jealousy, that instead of repenting, one spends his intelligence and time and everything on how to hide the sin. And I think this is where you see even today where people want to justify. People commit heinous crimes, but the criminals use all sorts of excuses. They will say, "Oh, it was my childhood trauma, my mother would beat me, people didn't respect me," all sorts of justification without looking inside as to why they are committing these crimes. For this reason, we decreed upon the children of Israel that whoever kills a person other than manslaughter and for spreading corruption in the land, it is as if he has killed all mankind. And whoever saves a life, it is as if he has saved entire mankind. And our messengers have certainly come down to them with clear proof. But even after that, many of them continue to commit excess in the land. So Quran tells us over here that life of a person is sacred. It must be protected. Killing one person is like killing entire mankind. And equally, saving one person is like saving entire mankind. Now think about this, how much people can lose or gain. And I think if you see one of the interesting things over here, it's not said it's killing of a Muslim or saving a Muslim. It's talking about one person, any person in the world, whether he is a Muslim or not a Muslim is not being discussed. It's any life. So life is precious. It must be treasured, it must be saved, it must be protected, and that's the reason why you see in Islam suicide is such a serious sin. Indeed, the punishment for those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger and strive upon the earth to cause corruption is only that they be killed or crucified, or their hands and feet be cut off from the opposite side, or that they may be exiled from the land. That is for them a disgrace in this world, and for them in the hereafter is a great punishment. So this punishment specified over here of crucifixion, of cutting of hands and feet from the opposite side, of exile, these are specified in this ayat. They are for the case where the law of the land is broken by force. And this you see in cases like armed robbery or highway robberies, or which actually disturbs the peace of mind of a large community of people. So brigands, gangsters who use violence, or even political parties who murder their opponents to create fear in the society would fall in this category. Now, any crime which leads to multiple offenses, like kidnapping which lead to murder, or kidnapping which leads to rape and torture, loss of property, would all fall in this category. So one needs to actually, the Islamic courts need to look at the nature of the crime and see how heinous that crime is. And it is the court which decides upon, to decide what kind of punishment is to be given, or whether a combination of punishment has to be given. And the worst of them will be to crucify the criminal. Except for those who repent before you apprehend them, and know that Allah is forgiving and merciful. So this is an incentive for those people who have committed the crime to reform themselves before they are caught. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha wabtaghu ilayhi alwasilata wajahidu fi sabilihi la'allakum tuflihun. O you who believe, fear Allah and seek the means of nearness to Him, and strive in his cause so that you may be successful. Now, sometimes when people read this ayat, ilayhil wasila, wasila in Urdu has different meaning. In Urdu, normally we would mean it as somebody who is a mean, somebody who is a medium, or somebody who will intercede. So this is a context where this word wasila is used in Urdu. But in Arabic, the context is completely different. When you look at Arabic, it means either it means a high position in paradise, or it means someone who has deep love and seeking closeness and seeking nearness. So this is the meaning of the word wasila. Now, what this ayat is actually doing is, it's actually encouraging us that we must look for ways in which we can seek closeness to our Prophet. And, that is by striving to follow his way. Wajahidu fi sabili, that you must do jihad, or you must strive in his cause so that you may be successful. And that's the reason why this word wasila being used over here. Indeed, those who disbelieve, if they should have all that is in the earth and the like of it with it, by which to ransom themselves from the punishment on the day of resurrection, it will not be accepted from them, and for them is a painful punishment. They will wish to get out of the fire, but they will never emerge from it, and for them is an enduring punishment. وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ فَاقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا جَزَاءً بِمَا كَسَبَ نَكَالًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. And as for the thief, the male and the female, cut their hands as a punishment for what they have committed, as an exemplary punishment from Allah. And Allah is exalted in might and wise. So this ayat specifies the punishment of theft. Obviously, when you hear this, that for a male thief or a female thief, cut off their hands as a punishment, some of us, when they hear these ayat, they will say, wow, how barbaric. But, it's fine saying how barbaric, but what about the victim? Today we find sympathy with criminals. What about the people against whom this crime has been committed? It's agreed that this punishment is to be enforced in Islamic society with justice. Where the Islamic Sharia has been implemented, it's not in isolation. But punishment that are specified in Quran, they are there to establish peace and safeguard the peace and mind of the people. In fact, it can be very easily understood from a hadith of our Prophet, where our Prophet said, it is better for 100 criminals to go free than one innocent person getting wrongly punished. What does it mean? That there must be a system by which you will be able to identify people who have committed theft. There must be a system of justice within the community. So Islam is not just about punishment. These punishments that are there in Islamic system are deterrents for preservation of peace in a society. Because today, if you think about it and you ask people, one of the fears that all people have living in any society, the greatest fear that they have is of theft. And hence Islam has put strict deterrent for it. What constitutes a theft? That's clearly defined. Obviously, I'm not going to go into the details, but anything petty is not covered in that. So there are clear guidelines of what would be constituting a theft. Now, this punishment can be implemented where Islamic system has been enforced with justice. And like I said, justice is the prerequisite. And these punishments are there. They're there in order not for regimentation of people, but to protect the system. But whoever repents after his wrongdoings and reforms, indeed Allah will turn to him in forgiveness. Indeed Allah is forgiving the merciful, which means punishment of the hereafter can only be atoned by sincere repentance or tawbah. Do you not know that to Allah belongs the sovereignty of heavens and earth? He punishes whom He wills and He forgives whom He wills, and Allah has power over all things. So for those who feel that amputation of hands and feet is barbaric, they need to remember that all this belongs to Allah. O Messenger, do not let those who vie one another in disbelief grieve you, be it from those who say we believe from their mouths, but whose hearts do not have faith, from among the Jews. They are listeners for the sake of falsehood, listeners on behalf of people who have not come to you. They alter the words from their context, saying, if you are given this, take it. If you are not given this, be cautious. And as for him whose trial is intended by Allah, you cannot benefit for him with Allah. For such Allah does not wish to purify their hearts. They shall have disgrace in this world, and in the hereafter an awful punishment. So these are kind of, Allah has just revealed these kind of words to comfort our Prophet ﷺ. You keep doing your good work and don't be discouraged by the opposition. Some people will obviously come to you just to hear, not for guidance, but they are there just to, to nitpick and to misguide other people. Now, the background of this is Jews would bring their disputes to our Prophet ﷺ, and they would bring their disputes only looking for a favorable decision. If the decision was in their favor, they would accept. If it was not, then, they would say, fine, we don't accept this decision. As this ayat saying, if you are given this, take it. If you are not given it, then be cautious, which means if the decision is in your favor, accept it. If not, then you can reject it. Listeners, for the sake of falsehood, consuming what is forbidden. Therefore, if they come to you, judge between them or turn aside from them. And if you turn aside from them, they shall not harm you in any way. If you judge between them with equity. Surely Allah loves those who judge equitably. So to hear, they didn't really, as I said earlier, didn't come to hear to the Prophet for guidance or for some judgment, but the Jews would come to judge some of their matters because they felt the Quran has lenient views on certain matters as compared to the Torah, and they felt that the decision would go, in their interest. So therefore they would hear Quran gives an option to our Prophet ﷺ that you can judge between them or you can turn them aside. That's your call. That's completely for you to decide. They will not be able to harm you in any way. But if you do judge, then do it with justice. That's the thing that is mentioned over here. Anything which is to be judged must be judged with justice, whether it is for a Muslim or a non-Muslim. Now, in personal matters, and I like to just point this out over here, like marriage, like inheritance, like divorce, each community, which means the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims, or any other people or people from the book, they will be judged according to their own Sharia. They will be judged according to the own law. However, if non-Muslims were to come to Muslims for judgment, then the decision will be according to the Islamic law, not according to their own books. But how is it that when they come to you for judgment, while they have the Torah, in which is judgment of Allah, then they turn away even after that? But these are not believers. So Jews would come to the Prophet, and Allah is really asking this, that why are they coming to you for judgment? They have a Torah, and there is a hukum in Torah for them over there. But since they don't want to accept judgment from their own book, they would come to our Prophet ﷺ. Surely we reveal the Torah, in which is guidance and light, by which the prophets who surrendered to Allah judged, the Jews and the rabbis and those with knowledge. For to them was entrusted the protection of the book of Allah, and they were witness to it. Therefore do not fear people and fear me, and do not barter my revelation for a little gain. And whoever does not judge by what Allah has revealed, such are the disbelievers. So revelations of Allah, whether they are in Torah, whether they are in Injil, whether they are in Quran, they are a serious responsibility. They are a serious responsibility. And over here, as you can see, this ayat says, the Jews and the rabbis and those with knowledge, for them was entrusted the protection of the book of Allah. So this is also true for Muslims also. For Muslim alims and for Muslims who read this book, they are also supposed to protect this book of Allah. This is the word of Allah, and have no fear about people. Be honest when you teach this book from Allah. We don't have to be apologetic. We don't have to be lenient. Our job is to deliver the untainted message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what our job is, and that's what Quran is telling us over here, is don't worry about other people. When you judge, when you convey this book, convey without any other consideration other than that it is really from this book of Quran. And we prescribe from them in it that life for life, and eye for eye, and nose for nose, and ear for ear, and tooth for tooth, and wound equal to equal. But he who forgoes it, it shall be an atonement from him. And whoever did not judge by what Allah revealed, such are the unjust. So this is a law of retribution, or the law of just revenge, which is a law which simply says equal for equal. And we need to remember that whatever portion from the Torah that has not been abrogated by Quran or by Hadith is equally applicable on Muslims. Torah does contain revelations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. some have been changed, and as a result Quran is correcting them, or hadith, through hadith we are correcting them. Here we see the law of just retribution, and this is a law that is there in Torah. Revenge for a crime that was done. Punishment is equal to the crime that is committed. In fact, in a hadith, our Prophet ﷺ said, if one receives a wound and forgives its retaliation, then one's sins will be forgiven in proportion to the degree of forgiveness, which is exactly in line with what Allah says over here, that someone who forgoes, it shall be an atonement for him. Islam teaches us not to be petty. Even when a crime has been committed against us, that we cannot be petty and we cannot be vindictive. So the next ayat number 46, and we have sent after them in their footstep Isa, son of Maryam, as a verifier of the Torah, and we gave him Injil, in which is guidance and light, and verifying what was before it in the Torah, and a guidance and a caution to those who fear. So Hazrat Isa alayhi salam did not bring a new set of laws or Sharia, but he was following the footstep of the Sharia of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. And let the people of Injil judge by what Allah has revealed in it, and whoever does not judge by what Allah has revealed, then it is these who are the transgressors. So people of the book should follow their law and judge and give judgment based on their own Sharia. The only law with Allah, it's only with the law of Allah that people can do justice, whether they are Muslims or Christians or Jews. وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ بِالْحَقِّ مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَالْمُهَيْمِنًا عَلَيْهِ فَاحْكُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ. So, and we have revealed to you the book with truth, verifying what was before it of the books, and a guardian over it. Therefore judge between them by what Allah has revealed, and do not follow their desires, which turn away from the truth that has come to you. For each one of you we have appointed a law and a way. If Allah had willed, He would have made you a single community, but He tries you by that which He has sent down to you. So vie with one another in good work. To Allah you will all return, then He will let you know about that in which you dispute. Now interestingly, the word that's used over here, muhaiminan alayhi, muhaimin, the word it literally means a protector. So here Quran is being described as a book which is correcting and protecting the changes that had been made by people in the Torah as well as in the Injil. So it's a book which is protecting the law of Allah. Earlier changes that were made by people that were there, and this is being corrected by the Quran. It is protecting the word of Allah. So these alterations, as I said, people had done them because they wanted to follow their own desire, instead of the truth. If you look at the deen, if you look at read the Torah on the Injil, you'll find every deen is promoting the same message, and the message is Tawheed, which is negation of all forms of shirk. This ritual and the outward forms of the mode of worship, they may differ, and they do differ between various religions, particularly between Muslims and Jews. They also have a prayer like we have a prayer. But however, the purpose of every worship is to worship one Allah. That's the real purpose of a worship, that it connects us to our Creator. So Allah may have changed the Sharia of people, like to Jews certain Sharia was given, to Muslims certain Sharia was given. Also just to check who follows the ritual and who recognizes the truth and then accepts it. So judge between them by that which Allah has revealed, and do not follow their desires, and beware of them, lest that they mislead you from the path of which Allah has revealed to you. But if they turn away, then know that Allah wills to afflict them on account of their sin, and most surely most men are transgressors. So what Quran is mentioning over here is that those who recognize truth will also recognize Quran. If you are a seeker of truth, you will find that this book of Quran is the real truth. But Quran says, unfortunately, majority of people are following their own desires. So if a deed is sinful, if people do deeds which are sinful, Quran says, lest they mislead you away from the path. If a deed is sinful, it will create darkness in the soul of people, which will actually become a stumbling block for them for doing good deeds later on. And if the deed is good, it will produce a nur in the soul of people, and it will become easier for them to be able to continue doing good deeds. Afa hukmul jahiliyati yabghun wa man ahsanu min Allahi hukman liqawmi yuqinun. Is it the judgment of ignorance that they seek? But who is better than Allah in judgment for a people who are certain, which means certain in faith? So the word of a hukmul jahiliya, the word jahiliya that comes in over here, it literally means the pre-Islamic era, the era before Islam, which was dominated by the ideology of ignorance. It was not anti-Islamic. I mean, there was no Islam. It was not anti-Islamic, but instead it was un-Islamic. So there may be different types of ignorances that we see in this world, and Quran refers to them as un-Islamic thought in certain places, un-Islamic law, un-Islamic support, un-Islamic displays. These are un-Islamic. They are not anti-Islam, or they are not, but they are just un-Islamic. That's the thing that we are talking about. So here Quran questions the Muslim who seek un-Islamic judgment in any matter. It's very interesting. Once there was a colleague of mine, and he came over to discuss this laws of inheritance. He wanted to understand how to divide his property between his wife and children, and son and daughter. After understanding the entire mechanism and how much shares for each one of them, one of the comments that I'd always remember, he said, no, I don't like this division. I would like to have the distribution of my inheritance according to the British law. He didn't want that it should be according to Islamic law. He says, I'm going to write in my will that my distribution should be done according to the British law. Now, this typically would be an un-Islamic judgment or un-Islamic thought. That's what is, if you feel there's any law you want to break for any other law, man-made law, that's an un-Islamic law. O you who believe, do not take the Jews and Christians as allies. They are allies of one another. And whoever is supporter of them among you, then indeed he is one of them. Surely Allah does not guide the unjust people. So at the time of the revelations, when this ayat was revealed, there was a serious conflict between the Jews and Christians, and that continued for centuries. It's only in the last 75 years, or maybe about 80, 90 years, past 80, 90 years, that we see that Jews and Christians have combined together. Otherwise, most of the time these people have been at each other's throat. So perhaps this ayat is referring to the present time, which says that they are the same, they are allies of one another. It's only for the last 75 years. So maybe this ayat is pointing to the present time when Jews and Christians have become friends of each other. Now, what this ayat was also telling us is, as we had seen earlier ayahs on the subject, that if Muslims were to adopt the way of life of the people of the book, then what is the difference between Islam and other faiths? If Islamic culture is left in favor of other cultures, then with passage of time, our wavelength and our mindset will match not with the companions. Instead, it will be more aligned with the Jews and Christians, which is not desirable from a Muslim point of view. Now, so this is a strong warning. It keeps coming back time after time. You'll see ayahs on this. This is a warning not to adopt the lifestyle and the rituals of the people of the book. And this is a constant reminder to Muslims. So you see those in whose heart is a disease run to them, saying, we are afraid a misfortune may strike us. But perhaps Allah will bring victory or a decision from Himself, and they will repent over what they hide in their souls. So Quran treats this hypocrisy as a disease of the heart. And it says that if you don't treat this disease, it's going to spread. If left untreated, this disease of hypocrisy will spread. Now the tribes around Medina who had converted to Islam, they were dependent on the Jewish tribes also in close proximity for the supply of their weapons, and they were very reluctant to break off the relationships with the Jews, despite the fact that Jews had open hatred for our Prophet ﷺ and for Islam. So this is what this ayat is actually telling, that these people in whose heart is a disease, they run to them, they keep running back. So 1440 years ago, the victory that came to Islam, it was not in the hands of people who were making friends of Jews and Christians. Instead, it came about through Muslims who were willing to strive, who were willing to struggle, who were willing to imbibe Quran in themselves and have the vision and mindset to put their trust on Allah. And the same is true for today. if we want the victory for Islam, it will come in the hands of such people, not people who are constantly running to the Ahl Kitab, to the Jews and Christians. And those who believe say, are these the men, which mean the hypocrites, who sworn by Allah their strongest oath that indeed they were with you, which means they were with you, which is with Muslims. Their deeds have become worthless and they have become losers. So hypocrites said that they go to Jews for the benefit of Islam. That's what their consolation or logic used to be. But Quran says that's really not true. O you who believe, if any one of you turns back from deen, then soon Allah will bring a people whom He loves and who love Him, humble towards the believers, stern towards the disbelievers, striving in the way of Allah and fearing not the blame of any blamer. Such is the grace of Allah, which He bestows on whom He pleases, and Allah is all-embracing, all-knowing. So this ayat is so clear. I mean, it's so nicely explained over here that Muslims are expected to be humble towards believers, and they are expected to be stern towards disbelievers. If we see ourselves, we are quite opposite to that. By and large, Muslims are much more humble towards the disbeliever than they are towards the believer. The words that we choose for our ulama, etc., and how we treat the disbelievers, I think it becomes very clear. So this ayat is also a kind of a warning to Muslims. And this ayah says, if any one of you turns back from the deen, then soon Allah will bring a people whom He loves and who love Him. And this warning came to be true even during the time of our Prophet ﷺ. Even at that time, we see that this fitna has been there at that time, and it has continued that. This fitna is there, but Islam has never been in danger. People have come into this deen and left this deen, but Muslims have been able to successfully defeat all these fitnas. So commentators of Quran say that this ayat is a prediction of large-scale turning away from Islam, and the signs of this were even evident towards the last days of our Prophet ﷺ. There were people like Musalma Kazab. He was the first to declare prophethood, and he wasn't small. He had a huge army, an army of 100,000 people at that time, and that was a very large number. He was defeated by Hazrat Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, and thousands of Muslims were martyred in that battle. Then there was another man, Aswad al-Ansi from Yemen. He announced prophethood. And then there was another Tuliya from Banu Asad. He became rebellious against Islam. And there was even a woman, Sajja. She also declared that she has become a prophet. So these turning away from this deen have been there. But Muslims have successfully been able to overcome all that. And the reason why Muslims have been successful is because Muslims display the following quality: that they love Allah, and then Allah loves them, and then they are not shy in doing jihad in the way of Allah with their lives, with their wealth, with their time, with their energy, with their intelligence. They struggle, they strive, they strain, they toil to the point of exhaustion. And when faced with challenges and hostility and opposition, they are by and large steadfast and committed. Your friend is none but Allah and His Messenger and those who believe, those who establish prayers and give zakat, and they bow down, which means they bow down with those who worship. And whoever is a friend of Allah and His Messenger and those who believe indeed the party of Allah, they will be victorious. O you who believe, do not take as friends from those who have taken your religion in ridicule and amusement from among the ones who were given the book before you, nor the disbelievers, and fear Allah if you are believer. And when you call to prayers, they take it in ridicule and amusement. That is because they are a people without understanding. So Islam actually teaches us to respect all religions. That's the kind of a thing a Muslim has to be. It even tells us that even the gods of the pagans, we shouldn't make a fun of them. We shouldn't really ridicule them. And an opposite of that, you see the ridicule and amusement that people always have for Islam. Clearly a great contrast being shown over here. Say, O people of the book, do you disapprove of us for no other reason other than that we believe in Allah? And what was revealed unto us, and what was revealed before, and because most of you are defined disobedient. So Quran questions this, that is that the only reason? That for non-acceptance, that you don't accept us because we are believers in one God. Our basic principle is to believe in Allah. Shall I inform you of what is worse than that as penalty from Allah? Worse is whom Allah has cursed and brought his rage upon him, whom he made from them apes and swines and slaves of Taghut. Those are worse in rank and further astray from the sound way. So this ayat tells us that the curse of Allah, being that after committing the worst curse of Allah is that people who commit a sin, then after that there is no realization that a sin has been committed, and as a result they never ask Allah for forgiveness. And also the fact that the moral degradation that happens in people when they drift away from Allah, the penalty of that is that they become wildly unpredictable, as Quran uses over here, that Allah has made them apes and swine. So maybe in their wildly unpredictable like an ape, or driven by their pursuit of lust like in a swine. And when they come to you, they say we believe, but when they have entered but they have entered with disbelief in their heart, and they have certainly left with it. And Allah is most knowing of what they were concealing. If we are looking for guidance from Quran, then it is really expected that we would submit, and we would fully submit to this book. First, we need to surrender. If people come to this book with preconceived notions, if we want Quran and want that Quran should only confirm their desires, their ambitions, their notions, then such people will really not get guidance from this book. If people are looking for guidance from this book, then they need to study this book without any preconceived notions or without any bias. And you see many of them hastening into sin and aggression and the consuming of what is unlawful. How wretched is what they have been doing. So in nations where people are not attracted to seek guidance, the benchmark of honor is being a transgressor in consuming the forbidden, and that's what Quran is mentioning over here, that they hasten in sin and aggression and consuming what is unlawful, and this is a wretched thing that they are doing. Why do the rabbis and religious scholars not forbid them from saying what is sinful and consuming what is unlawful? How wretched is what they have been practicing. Here the role of a religious teacher is being highlighted. The role of a religious teacher is not just to discuss fazail and sawab and read this so many times and you get so much sawab and for 100 years ibadat and paradise is guaranteed, etc., etc. Why would Allah make such shortcuts? Think about it. On one side you have a person who is working honestly, he has great akhlaq, and on the other side you have a cheat, you have a person who is a thief, who has terrible akhlaq, and he just goes about reciting some wazifa and he gate crashes into paradise. I think what a ridiculous ideology. What kind of utter nonsense would this be? That you equate these two together, and this is what you see that the religious scholars should not be doing. They need to make sure that this deen is used to improve the akhlaq of people, that it makes us better people. So the role of religious scholar is to tell people how to implement Quran in our life. Sawab is there. We don't know how much sawab we get for each thing that we read. And we should be more concerned about the change that this book brings about in our life, because change is a very difficult thing. How it is improving our akhlaq. Is reading Quran making any difference in my akhlaq? Is it making any difference in the way I earn money? Am I being more honest in my earnings? Am I being more just? Am I more kind? Am I more generous or not? Now, if these things are not happening, there is something wrong. There is something wrong, because this is a book that should bring about change in our life. And why don't we put this notice in our masjids also? Sometimes you begin to, please do not donate any money that you have earned from riba or from bribe or from theft. Don't donate such money in my mosque, in our mosque. We should have such notices over there, because the role of a religious teacher is not just to preach goodness, but it is also to stop people from sinful things, from consuming the prohibited. Because a body which is fed by haram, it cannot do righteous deeds. And in a nation which has sunk into crimes and sins, and the learned teachers do not stop people from that, and because of the only fear fear of some reprisal or temptation or some vested interest, then the crime of the scholar is greater than the crime of the people. And the Jews say Allah's hands are tied. Allah's hands are tied up. Their hands shall be shackled, and they shall be cursed for what they say. No, both his hands are outstretched. He gives as he pleases, and the revelations that have come to you from your Rabb increase in most of them their stubborn rebellion and disbelief. And we have cast among them hostility and hatred till the day of judgment. Every time they light a fire of war, Allah extinguishes it. And they strive for corruption in the land, and Allah does not love those who corrupt. So commenting on the Jews, who when they would see the poverty of Muslims in Medina as sarcasm, they were very sarcastic, and they would say, oh, your Allah is so poor that actually his hands are so tied up that he cannot actually remove this poverty from you. So this is a huge mistake by people, mistaking the worldly riches with being on the right path. So this is where, this is something that Allah is pointing out over here, that it is not the lack of power. It's not Allah's lack of power that He's not helping them or not doing that. But this is really illustrating your mindset. It's illustrating your attitude, which mistakenly identifies world riches and world power with one being on the right path. And we have cast among them hostility and hatred till the day of judgment, and every time they light a fire of war, Allah extinguishes it. So historically you've seen Jews were persecuted by the Christians. There has been this underlying hate that's been simmering in below the surface for a very long time. It comes up for a certain period of time, and they persecuted the Jews like they did in Germany, about 50, 60, 70 years ago in the 1940s. And now it's again gone back to a bit of a love affair, which will soon be over also. And only if the people of the scripture had believed and feared Allah, we would have removed from them their misdeeds and admitted them in gardens of delight. And if only they had established the Torah and Injil and what was revealed to them from their Lord, they would have eaten from above them and from beneath their feet. Among them there are people on the right path, but many of them are doers of evil. So if we look around, and wherever we find khair in this world, including the Western world, wherever we find khair in this world, you can be assured that some ahkam of Islamic Sharia has been enforced. Maybe not as an Islamic, with the word Islamic, but the rule has been taken in from the Islamic Sharia and enforced, and as a result, you will see the khair of that emerging in those societies. Unfortunately, in the Islamic world, there is a lot of talk, but very little implementation of Sharia. Why? Because talk is cheap, and to implement justice is a very difficult thing. In fact, there's a hadith of our Prophet ﷺ where our Prophet ﷺ said, there will be a time when nothing will be left of Islam except name. And there will be nothing left of Quran except words. I hope that we are really not living in that time where we are just words being understood from here to there but not implemented. If we cannot implement justice in our societies, in our homes, in our communities, then obviously it's just talk, and talk, like I said, talk is cheap. O Messenger, deliver that which has been revealed to you from your Lord, and if you do not, then you have not conveyed His message, and Allah will protect you from the people. Indeed, Allah does not guide the disbelieving people. So primarily the address over here is to Prophet ﷺ, to the Messenger, and through him it is also to his followers to deliver these revelations. In fact, in the last khutbah that our Prophet ﷺ gave, one of the lines that he said over here towards the end was, all those who listen to me shall pass my words to others, and those to others, and maybe the last ones understand my word better than those who hear from me directly. And then he said, O Allah, be a witness, I have conveyed the message to people. So also Quran makes very clear over here, one, our role to convey the message, and the other is sometimes truth is difficult to deliver. Some may even turn people against us. Some truths may turn people against us. However, truth should never be compromised, and truth should never be sacrificed, because people know that this is the truth. Since it is going to clash with the established social, economic, cultural, and traditional norms, and that's the reason why people are not willing to act by its commandment. Say, O people of the book, you are standing on nothing until you establish the law of Torah and Injil and what has been revealed to you from your Lord. And that which has been revealed to you from your Lord will surely increase many of them in transgression and disbelief. So do not grieve over the disbelieving people. So this is a hukum which is actually this is addressed to the people of the book, that Allah has given you the law in the Torah as well as in the Injil. Have you implemented the revealed text? That's the real question. It is the implementation of the commandments of the text which is the desired aim. In fact, in a long hadith, our Prophet ﷺ said, "Remember, I have been given the Quran, and with it I have been given other knowledge. And a time will come when a man with full stomach reclining on a cushion will say that Quran is enough for you. What is permitted in it is permitted, and what is prohibited in it is prohibited. While the real truth is that which the Messenger of Allah has prohibited is equally prohibited as laid down in Quran." So I think it's important. It is all about implementation. People of the book should implement the laws of Torah and Injil in their lives, and Muslims need to implement the law that has been sent down in this book of Quran. Indeed, those who believe and those who are Jews or Sabians or Christians, and whoever believes in Allah and the last day and did righteous deeds, they shall have no fear, nor they shall grieve. Now, this ayah, then when we read this ayah, we shouldn't really mistake it to think that this is a definition of Islam. What Quran is mentioning over here is that all these groups, whether they are Jews or Sabians or Christians, they were the followers of Prophet of their time, and hence they were Muslims of that time. So Allah is not giving a definition of Iman over here. Instead, what is being made clear is that all these groups who were the followers of the Prophet of that time, and as a result, those people who followed their Prophet, they will be successful. We made a covenant with children of Israel and sent to them messengers. Whenever there came to them a messenger from with what their souls did not desire, they became rebellion, and some of them they rejected, and some of them they killed. So Jews were, you see historically not only disagreed, and they disagreed with the messengers because their nafs did not desire. Their nafs did not desire what the messengers were commanding them to do. And they thought that there would be no trial. So they were willfully blind and deaf. And Allah turned towards them with mercy, yet many of them became deaf and blind, and Allah sees what they do. So Jews were of the view that their being disobedient to the messenger was not an issue. Hence, knowingly they disobeyed. Despite this disobedience, Allah turned to them with mercy, and He was merciful for them, yet their behaviors have not changed. They have certainly disbelieved who say Allah is Messiah, the son of Mary, while Messiah has said, "O children of Israel, worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord. Indeed, he who associates others with Allah, Allah has forbidden him paradise, and the refuge is fire, and there are no helpers for the wrongdoers." So anyone who says that Isa alayhi salam is the son of God are clearly by this side disbelievers. But this is how actually Hazrat Isa alayhi salam is quoted in the Bible. So Quran actually picks up the words from Bible itself, where Hazrat Isa alayhi salam in Bible is quoted and said, "O children of Israel, worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord." These are exact words that are quoted from the Bible and Quran. And they have certainly disbelieved who say, Allah is the third of the three. There is no God except one God. And if they do not stop what they are saying, there will surely afflict the disbelievers among them a painful punishment. So Quran is referring to this concept of Trinity in Christianity and making clear that this is nothing but a false concept. This 3 in 1, 1 in 3, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. I think this is a concept that is even confusing to the Christians themselves. So will they not turn to Allah and seek forgiveness, and Allah is forgiving and merciful. So correctness of false belief is necessary condition for forgiveness. That's what this ayat highlights over here. And Messiah, son of Mary, no more than a messenger. Other messengers have passed on before him, and his mother was a saintly woman. They both used to eat food. Look how we make clear to them the signs, then see how they are deluded. So talking about Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, Quran saying he was a human being like all other human beings. They had needs, like other human beings had. They had limitations like other human body has, that he slept, his mother slept, they ate food, they felt heat, they felt cold. Even Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, even in Bible it says that he was tempted by the shaitan. Say, do you worship besides Allah that which holds for you no power to harm or benefit, while it is Allah who is the hearing and the knowing? Say, O people of the book, do not exceed limits in your religion beyond the truth, and do not follow the inclination of a people who had gone astray before and misled many and have strayed from the soundness of the way. So this ayat say, O people of the, do not exceed limits. The word used over here is ghulu, exceeding limits set by Allah and His Messenger. Ghulu is to cross a limit drawn by religion in matters of belief and in matters of deed. Like loving someone is good, loving a messenger is good, but loving him to the extent that changing his status to divinity, changing or taking a human being and assigning him attributes which are reserved for Allah, this is all ghulu, which means excess in love. So, and also the fact that making things which are permissible and making them prohibited on oneself, this is also not to be considered as an act of piety. Those who disbelieved from among the children of Israel were cursed by the tongue of Dawood and Isa son of Maryam. This was because they disobeyed and persisted in transgression. They did not stop one another from sinful things that they did. How wretched was that which they were doing. So since everyone was indulging in sin, really there was no one to even stop the other, because they were all in the same boat. You see many of them becoming allies of one another who disbelieve. How wretched is that which they have sent forth for themselves. That rage of Allah is on them, and in the punishment they will abide eternally. So people of the book made close friendships with the disbelievers. Then along with their alliance, their sympathy, their identity, with passage of time, their beliefs and behaviors also became in harmony with the disbelievers. And that's the reason why Quran is so strong in telling Muslims that we shouldn't have alliances and sympathies and identity with the people who are not of the faith of Islam. And if they had believed in Allah and the prophets and in what was revealed to him, they would not have taken them as allies, and many of them are defiantly disobedient. So the next ayat, which is the last ayat that we are going to do this evening, لَتَجِدَنَّ أَشَدَّ النَّاسِ عَدَاوَةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الْيَهُودَ وَالَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا. And you will surely find the most intense of people in hatred towards the believers to be Jews and those who associate others with Allah. And you will find the nearest of them in affection to the believers those who say, we are the Nazarites, we are the Nasaras. That is because among them are priests and monks, and because they are not arrogant. So Quran tells over here, winding up this whole talk, that these priests of Christian priests and their monks, they teach their followers humility. They are humble people, and that's the essence of a true faith, to make us humble people. And traditionally Jews as a nation have been people who are vain, who are proud, who are arrogant, and who are conceited. And as a result, you see that Jews have been hated by all nations, by all religions. Wherever they have lived, in every region, that they have earned the hatred of the people. So, Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quran al-Azim wa nafana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim.